Hi everyone. Hope you all are good. We are here for grade 10 math. You can find all the lessons on ableistudents.com. You have to log in there using your email address and password as provided by the administrator. Then you have to select math from the subject tab. Scroll down to grade 10 math and then click on view all lessons. There you can find a list of the chapters. We're going to start with the chapter probability. The lessons we're going to cover today are theoretical and experimental probability, compound events, find the number of outcomes, independent events, and then counting principles. So please make sure you have your notebook and pencil so that you can note down the important examples and definitions as well. Let's just start with the lesson. Here I'm on grade 10 math. The chapter we are on right now is probability. Let's just start with the first lesson, that is theoretical and experimental probability. Let's just start with the example. Ali recorded the eye colors of the people who have already signed up for a lecture on genetics. What is the experimental probability that the next person to sign up will hazel eyes? The experimental probability that the next person will sign up with the hazel eyes, the hazel, only 8 of the person have hazel eyes, right? And the total are 18, that is 8 over 18, and the probability is 4 over 9. Let's just start with the test questions. May supplies costumes to a number of theater companies. She recently provided 14 different hats, including 7 mortar boards. What is the experimental probability that the next that requested from May's inventory will be the mortar board? So, which is the correct option? So, the total hats are 14, right? And the mortar board are 7. So, the probability is 7 out of 14. That is, you can simplify the answer, that is 1 by 2. Option number 1 is the correct option. You spin the spinner once. What is the probability of prime numbers? What are the prime numbers? The numbers that can only be divisible by 1 or itself are the prime numbers, right? So two of the numbers are prime here. 5 and 7 are the prime numbers because they can be divisible on 1 and itself only. So that is 2 out of 4. That is 1 by 2. You have to multiply it by the 100 because you need to write the answer in the percentage form. So that is 50%. So the probability of prime number is 50%. So the correct option is option number 1, that is 50%. Mitch's mother recorded how many donuts he has eaten over the past few months. What is the experimental probability that the next donut Mitch eats will be a glazed donut? The next one he eat is glazed up. Two donuts are glazed donut out of the 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So the probability is 2 out of 18. When you simplify the answer, that would be 1 out of 9. Option number 1 is the correct option. The correct option is option number 1, that is 1 out of 9. The table shows the enrollment in university class so far, broke down by the student type. What is the experimental probability that the next student to enroll will be a graduate student? 4, that is 4 out of 12. So the correct option is that is 1 out of 5. Option number 1 out of 3. Option number 1 is the correct option. You pick a marble at random. What is the probability of blue or brown? Write down your answer as a percentage. Blue or brown? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Six of them are blue and brown, and that is 6 out of 8. You need to multiply it by the 100. 2 times 4 is 8, and 2 times 50. 2 times 2 and 25. 2 times 3 is 6. That is 75% option number one is the correct option. That is 75% option number one is the correct option. A grocery store recently sold 2 cartons of lemon yogurt and 14 cartons of yogurt. What is the experimental probability that the next carton of yogurt sold will be lemon? The correct option is 1 over 2 over 8 it is, right? 1 over 8. Okay, you can complete the lesson by yourself later today. Let's just move on to next lesson. The next lesson is compound events, find the number of outcomes. You spin the spinner and pick a marble. How many outcomes are possible? So you have three portions on the spinner, right? And you have one, two, three, four, five, six outcomes for the marble and three for the spinner. So the total outcomes are 3 times 6, that makes 18. The correct option is 18. Let's just start with the test questions. Let's see how do we calculate the total outcomes for the compound events. You pick a card and roll a die. What how many outcomes are possible? So the outcomes for the card are you have 5 outcomes, and when for the dice you have 6 outcomes. So the total outcomes are 5 times 6, that is 30. So the correct option is 30. Option number 2 is the correct option. The correct option is 30. You spin the spinner and pick a marble. How many outcomes are possible? For the spinner has three outcomes, and the outcomes for the marbles are 6, so that is 3 times 6 equals 18. The correct option is option number 2, 18 it is. You flip a coin and roll a die. How many outcomes are possible? That is, you have two outcomes for the coin and six outcomes for the dice, so that is 6 times 2 is 12. Option number 2 is the correct option, that is 12. You pick a card and flip a coin. How many outcomes are possible? That is 5 times 2. 5 times 2 is. The correct option is option number 1, that is 10. You pick a marble and spin the spinner. How many outcomes are possible? Which is the correct option? The correct option is 8. Option number 1 is the correct option. You flip a coin and pick a marble. How many outcomes are possible? So, which is the correct option? That is 8. 4 times 2 is 8. Option number 2 is the correct option. You flip a coin and spin the spinner. How many outcomes are possible? That is 12. 2 times 6 is 12. Option number 2 is the correct option. Okay, you can complete the lesson by yourself later today. Let me just move on to next lesson. That is independent and dependent events. Students in a classroom are voting for class president by secret ballot. Kelly submits a ballot and then Bobby does. Are these two events dependent or independent? That is the independent event, right? That is the student's choice who they are going to vote. Let's just start with the test questions. Isaac picks a marble at random. Without putting the first marble back, he picks a second marble at random. Are these two events dependent or independent? You- Hmm. Isaac picks the marble first, right? And he didn't put the marble back. So for the first time, the total outcomes are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 outcomes. But for the second time, you have 8 outcomes. So they are the dependent events, right? If the outcomes are not same, then they are the dependent events. Abby buys a sculpture at an art show featuring one of a kind art. A few minutes later, Becky comes to the same art show and buys sculpture too. Are these two events dependent or independent? That is dependent events because Abby buys first, and when the Becky is going to buy the sculpture, he have one less sculpture, so that is the dependent event. Marshall pulls a coin out of his pocket and places it on the table. Then he reaches back into his pockets and takes out a second coin. Are these two events dependent or independent? They are the dependent events. Option number one is the correct option. Students in a fifth grade class are writing reports on famous inventors. Each student may choose one inventor from a list. The teacher does not want any repeats. Leon chooses first, followed by Alice. So, which is the correct option? They are the dependent events, right? The correct option is option number one because no repeats allowed. So, that is the dependent event. Robbie and Alexa get messages from the same person. On Monday, Robbie calls and pick one of the available appointment time. On Tuesday, Alexa calls and pick one of the remaining appointments. Are these two events dependent or independent? That is, they are the dependent events. Option number one is the correct option. Students in composition class may select certain topics on which to write an essay. Repeats are allowed if they do not need to inform the teacher of their choice prior to the due date of the essay. The correct option is independent events, right? Okay, you can complete the lesson by yourself later today. Let's just move on to next lesson. The next lesson is counting principle. While having his kitchen remodeled, Joe discusses the options with a contractor. There are five countertops and three sinks to choose from. How many different kitchens can Joe design? That is 5 times 3 because 5 options for the countertop and 3 for the sink. So the correct option is total 15 designs are available for the washroom. Let's just start with the test questions. Nancy is knitting a sweater for the yarn. She has to choose two colors and five weights. How many different sweaters can Nancy knit? The correct option is two colors and five weights. So that is 2 times 5 is 10. The correct option is 10. Option number 2 is the correct option. The correct option is option number 2. A door, a doctor wants to subscribe to some magazines so that her patients have something to read in the waiting room. She wants to subscribe for one of the two news magazines, one of the five fashion magazines. She also wants to subscribe one of the seven business magazines. How many different combinations? How many different combinations of magazines can the doctor order? So which is the correct option? The correct option is 5 times 2 times 7, that is 10 times 7 is 70. Option number 2 is the correct option. Nick is ordering breakfast in a restaurant. There are 9 types of eggs and 5 types of toast to choose from. How many different breakfast can Nick order? So which is the correct option? That is 9 times 5 is 45. Option number 1 is the correct option. Veera is planning a day out for her grandmother's birthday. They are going to have lunch at 1 for her grandmother's 2 favorite restaurant, and then they will go shopping at one of her grandmother's four favorite stores. Next, they will go to see a movie, and there are four movies out that she thinks her grandmother might like. Assuming the order of the activities doesn't matter, how many different ways can Veera plan her grandmother's birthday outing? So, which is the correct option? That is 2 times 4 times 4 is 16, and 16 times 2 is 32. Option number 2 is the correct option. Nina is planning a workout. She needs to choose one of the four cardio routines and one of the five resistance training routines. How many different workouts can Nina plan? That is option number 1. 5 times 4 is 20. Option number 1 is the correct option. Lela is packing a lunchbox to take to school. Lela can make 10 kinds of sandwiches, and there two kinds of fruit in the house. There are two flavors of juice boxes in the refrigerator. Assuming Lela packs one of each item, how many different lunches can she pack? So, which is the correct option? That is 10 times 2 is 12, and 10 times 2 is 20, and 20 times 2 is 40. Option number 3 is the correct option. Okay, you can complete the lesson by yourself later today. So, we were working on grade 10 math. Chapter we were working on is probability. The lessons we have covered today are theoretical and experimental probability, compound events, find the number of outcomes, independent and dependent events, and counting principles. So please make sure before the next session you can complete all the practice questions for the lessons we just did. That is your homework until next session. So if you need more help with any of the lesson, you can simply click on the live chat button. Tutors are available there to help you. or either you can write down the questions in the chat box. I'm here to answer all your questions and confusions. Help. No questions? Okay, then that's all for today. See you in the next session. Bye, everyone.